So it's really easy to give help, and everyone wants to give help. And I think when you need help, you're actually like, if you ask for it, your friends are going to be there. But we don't want to ask for it because of ego.
Spartans, listen up.
We need to sleep better. So how do you sleep better? Never thought about it before. And so I met Jack, I met Essentia. Pay attention to the mattress you sleep on because it's loaded with chemicals.
Recovery, cooling, and pressure relief, all in one mattress. Up to 60% more deep and REM sleep. Less inflammation, faster bounce back. No toxins, no EMFs, no BS.
My buddy Jack over at Essentia, he's kind enough to give us a code for the Spartan community. That's DECA, that's Tough Mudder, all of us. Use Spartan25, get a discount. Prioritize your sleep so you can sleep faster, you can do more burpees, you can train more, you can get healthier. When you sleep well, you live well.
Welcome to the Hard Way podcast with Joe DeSena, founder and CEO of Spartan Races. We're teaching you how to overcome your obstacles in your life the same way we teach our 10 million plus Spartans to overcome obstacles on the course. With insight from the smartest, most accomplished experts from every corner of the world. Get ready to elevate your life today.
Joe DeSena here, CEO and founder of Spartan, host of the Hard Way podcast. Got an old friend of mine. She's young, but it's an old friend, Rebecca Rusch. She's crushing it. Are you in Idaho?
I'm in Idaho, and I live in a place called Smiley Creek.
Rebecca, queen of pain, longtime friend, amazing person. Just take a minute, if you don't mind, and tell everybody, your athletic achievements, because you are literally superhuman.
Well, thank you, Joe. I'm a lifelong athlete since high school, cross-country running, and never looked back. And I'm a 7-time world champion in multiple sports, cycling Hall of Famer, 2-time cycling Hall of Famer, rock climber, paddler, adventure racer. I love to do long expeditions. I've done a lot of bike packing, riding my bike through Alaska, Iditarod Trail, all that kind of stuff. So I'm an ultra endurance specialist in a lot of different sports and call myself an explorer more than an athlete sometimes. But yeah, that's how I built my life. And I've launched a bunch of events, but mostly I'm an explorer going out into the wild, doing long endurance stuff.
I love it. I got to bring you to the Explorers Club in New York.
Oh, that would be a dream. I would love to.
So anybody that knows Rebecca knows that she is the queen of pain and suffering. She gets it done every day, never slows down. I got some great stories from years ago. We'd be racing and she'd come flying by. She goes 1,000 miles an hour. But I just found out you've been stuck. You lost momentum. Tell us the story. Tell us what happened.
For the first time in my life, I stopped moving. I lost momentum. I had a sort of I had a bike crash 3.5 years ago. I was out on a solo bike ride. Not doing anything crazy, just clipped my handlebar, flew off the bike, bounced down a cliff, but the first impact was on my head, and performed a self-rescue, got myself out of there, and thought it was fine. I thought that was the hard part of it, but I suffered what they categorize as a mild concussion, but the symptoms really, really took over my life. And for 2.5 years, I was in a really dark place and a person that I didn't recognize and really struggling with physical health, mental health issues. And for the first time in my life, trying harder, pushing harder, wasn't working. And it's been a real journey the last 3.5 years now. And I'm happy to say I'm recovering, but it's been the hardest thing I've done in my life. And I've done a lot of hard things. So navigating that has been a real lesson. And I can look now and say I'm grateful that it happened because I know myself better than I did before the accident. But in the middle of it was a pretty dark place.
A lot of us, right, that get, quote unquote, get to move and get to do things, but yet complain about how hard they are. I guess it all comes into focus when you can't do those things.
It was like physically I was okay. I could have gotten back moving, but mentally, emotionally, I wasn't motivated. I didn't want to go outside. There were some days that I barely walked my dogs. That was the most movement I did. And going from somebody who's been since high school, lifelong world-class athlete, it was a real change. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, I did video recordings like, who is this person? I don't recognize this person. And so my body was able but my mind wasn't. And I just didn't know what was going on. I've since learned about what happens when you hit your head and the kind of chemical shakeup that happens. Had I known that and gotten better care at the time, I would have had a process and a way to work through it. But, I'm this tough athlete. I was like, I'm fine, nothing wrong with me. I'm just going to push through. I'm not going to tell anybody about it. I'm just going to try harder. And I just spiraled down and started getting back pain and knee pain and not sleeping and having mental health issues, depression, and then started eating poorly and relationships were suffering, like all of this stuff. And my business was suffering. And yeah, Joe, I don't know who that person was. And it took, and I went back to like, okay, what do I know from my experiences? What do I know from doing hard things? And, I tried to sort of like I've done my whole life. I tried to work through it myself. I've launched businesses myself. I've done all my races myself. So yeah, I had to kind of find a new path. And quite honestly, what happened is that I had to first admit that I wasn't okay. Even though this invisible injury, you're like, what's wrong with me? Am I just being weak? And I had to admit that I wasn't okay and that I needed help. And once that happened, which was about a year in, I finally started getting some professional help, getting some therapy, finding neuroscientists, finding eye people, finding concussion specialists. But it took a long time. Yeah, it's actually hard to articulate it because that person doesn't even seem like me.
Do you think it offers clues to folks that you and I tried to never be like that are stuck on the couch and so how can we help the rest of the the majority of the population who are stuck?
Yeah, I felt like I got a real insight into, when even friends would be like, "Well, just go on a ride, just sign up for a race, just make a commitment." I'm like, "I know I should, but there was something in me that wasn't." And then it became fear of like, "Oh, well, I'm going to be slow and people expect me to be fast." And it became a lot of things that now I can really relate to people who don't want to sign up for an event because they're embarrassed or they don't like the person they are. And so they don't want to put that person on display with an event, or they don't want to ask for help because they don't want to admit that maybe they're failing at something. And I think the insights that it gave me are basically the reflection of, my physical body, my physical being. I'm super honed in on that. I think my emotional body has been quite underdeveloped much of my life. And so going through a voluntary physical hard challenge is different than going through an involuntary emotional challenge. What I will say is the physical can pull you out of the emotional. Like they can both support each other. So while emotionally I needed to be healing because I was injured, I let the physical body go. Whereas if I had been walking, just doing other things, and kept more of a physical health level, that would have supported my mental health. And so I definitely learned that. And also I had to not put the power meter on my bike, not look at a Garmin, not even ride a bike. I actually started running and hiking when I started getting back to movement because I didn't want to have the comparison of what I thought I should be versus where I am right now. And so some of those things that are typically motivating were demotivating for me. So it was an interesting play of learning, okay, how do I get moving? And it was basically a lot of reflection, which included journaling, meditation, really thinking about, what I was going through and connecting with other people. And many high achievers feel like I got to do it all myself. I'm good. I got this. I don't need any help. And once I basically asked for help and said, hey, this is where I'm at, everybody was there for me. They didn't expect me to be perfect or come out, with the world champion attitude. They're like, I want to help you.
But your ego was afraid of that.
Oh, yeah. So it was a big hit to the ego.
Yeah, so two things I'm hearing. Number one, movement itself would have helped heal you and anybody out there, dealing with whatever, right? Like movement is just good. Any kind of movement. Everybody's a pretty good person around you, right? Like you'd be surprised. You ask for help, people are willing to help.
I mean, there's all this science behind when you move, there's hormone releases, there's neurochemicals, there's circulation, there's all sorts of stuff happening. And so when you stop doing that, and there is an old school concussion protocol that, you hit your head, you just stop and do nothing. And that's completely wrong. And that's what I did wrong. I stayed still for too long. And yeah, you don't want to hit your head again. You don't need to go smash intervals, but you need to walk, you need to move, you need to keep the blood and the hormone and everything flowing. When I think about asking for help and receiving help, I think about my adventure racing days. And, we share a lot of friends from those days. And, I was on these 4-person teams I was usually the only female. And you got to start and finish together, and I'm racing with, 6 foot, 200-pound guy, me. It was always very easy in those situations to give help, to carry your teammate's backpack if they needed. It was hard to ask for help because you knew you were literally putting a burden on somebody else, like the backpack. And I remember, John Jacoby, a big, strong dude, teammate of mine. There was one time where, I was carrying his backpack, mine on the back, his on the front, and the guy's 200 pounds. And the fact that he was big enough to say, Rebecca, you're 5'7", 103 pounds. Can you carry my pack? So it's really easy to give help, and everyone wants to give help. And I think when you need help, you're actually like, if you ask for it, your friends are going to be there. But we don't want to ask for it because of ego.
My shirt that I'm wearing today is probably all wrong. It says nobody cares. Nobody cares, work harder. But I think you're absolutely right. If we could drop the ego and ask for help, there'll be people lining up to help us. And then I loved your comment around not comparing yourself to the old self, right? Because that could have stunted your bounce back. And but that's ego. That's ego as well.
It is ego, and learning that a measurement of success, and in a racing career, it's like I'm trying to win every time. I'm trying to win so I can keep my job. I'm trying to win so, because of ego and because I'm competitive and I love it. And reframing what is winning when you sort of lost yourself. Winning to me was if I walked the dogs that day, or I got out of bed, or I stretched a little. And so reframing, or if I laughed and had fun on a bike ride, that's where am right now. I'm riding with my friends, and I'm not using metrics other than, did I get outside consistently? And did I have a good time? And those are the metrics that I need to use right now. But I'm starting to feel a little glimmer of, like, I pushed hard up a hill the other day on a ride, and I'm like, okay. But the patience of not having this really harsh comparison of yourself, but using a metric of fun and joy. And I got outside and I moved and the sun was shining today. I had to add those layers of success, I guess, to the mix.
Close to 13 million people now across the finish line. And they changed their life. Like, the stories are so unbelievable, as you know. I'm back with my husband. I'm back with my wife. I lost 200 pounds. I gave up drugs. I gave up. Like, you say to yourself, how could that be? But it's everything you just said. It's the sunlight. It's the sweat. It's the movement. It's the blood circulate. Like, it's the hormones. I know some folks that lost their son to suicide. And I said, you got to go exercise. And it sounds very, like, ridiculous, right? Like, that's a ridiculous statement. But the alternatives are what? Sleeping, drugs, drinking. Like, what are the alternatives?
That's where I was at, Joe. I'll just be really honest. I had suicidal thoughts. I had, my business was failing, and like relationship challenges, and yeah, I had to get moving again. And it does seem like, well, what's the big deal to go on a run? But it starts this cascade effect for physical health, which then leads to mental health every time. And a lot of the time, it's such an easy formula, but you're also connecting with people. You're making a commitment. You are, talking to your friends while you're out riding a bike, and you're seeing nature and being in nature. And I know this from a lifetime of being an athlete, but I forgot it. And I just, yeah, I lost myself. I lost my way. And it was a crazy time, but it's real clear now. Reflect, move, connect. Like, those are, simplify it, reflect on your internal self, like journal, meditate, think about, hey, is this working? What's not working? Get to know yourself internally and then move. That's the key to victory for so many things, and connect with people. Whether it's in a Spartan race, whether it's in your neighborhood dog walk, or a Pilates group, or whatever it is. We are communal people, and we aren't meant to be alone all the time. And I hold up and I was alone, and I just kind of went into internal darkness that wasn't good for anybody.
I'm glad you're back. How do people find you?
Well, I'm back, and I want to say I've learned so much about the brain that has been really cool. And I've put together resources for people who have a concussion or hit their head. Because my goal now is to, it used to be to get people moving, myself and other people moving. But it's also to get them exploring their internal self as well. So exploring inside and outside. And so that's my mission now, based on my sports experience and then also my injury experience. And people can find me on my website. They can find me at RebeccaRusch.com, and we can all get outside and move together, because it helps me as much as it helps everybody else. I think, in your career, you get just as much winning, high feeling, awesomeness watching other people cross the finish line that you help facilitate. Like, that's a win for you. That's kind of how I feel. I want to bring other people along on this health journey, by getting people to move outside.
I got to connect you with a company called Nestre, Nestre. My buddy Tommy Shavers, he's got a cap he can put on somebody's head, and he can see if they've had a concussion or whatever. Like, it'd be a nice little connection with you. Yeah.
There's so much cool science around it. And I will tell you, I was really disappointed in our medical system, when, I hit my head. And, I'm a sponsored athlete and have access to a lot of resources. And some big companies were just like, yeah, we don't really have a concussion program. We're working on it, and people think that it's football and, hockey, but really the highest percentage of concussion are construction workers and cyclists. And it's regular people. It's not just pro athletes. And so a lot of folks are going on untreated because they don't know, and they don't think anything's wrong, and it's an invisible injury. So there's a lot of good resources out there. So yeah, I'd love to talk to your friend and keep spreading the word so that people don't, they don't suffer and lose themselves like I did.
I love it. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for getting off the couch again.
Thanks, Joe.